Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Kmart, and I want to talk about some basketball. And today, I'm gonna talk about the ongoing drama that is the James Harden trade demand between himself and the 76ers. So, we recently got a conclusion to one of the two massive, drama-filled trade demand scenarios in the form of the Damian Lillard trade. That all got sorted out, right? He ended up going, well, maybe not where he wanted, but somewhere that he's apparently okay with, and now all of that can go away, and we just talk about basketball related things for the teams involved, the Trailblazers, the Bucks, the Suns, etc. But we still have the situation in Philly with James Harden, which I have no idea if it's going to end anytime soon. So, quick recap, just in case you somehow aren't familiar with what's going on here. Long story short, James Harden opted into the final year of his contract. He thought he was doing so in order to facilitate a trade away from Philadelphia. That trade ended up not happening. The 76ers basically pulled him off the trade market and decided to keep him. And now James Harden is not happy about that. He believes he was either directly promised a trade or heavily implied that he would be traded. The 76ers front office and Daryl Morey in particular say that they didn't make any such promise and that Harden is basically just kind of making this whole thing up. So that's where we get to now. Harden's not happy with the organization. The organization says that they don't want to trade him unless they have, a perfect deal in place. So that's been going on for a little while now, but as we are basically right at the start of the preseason, teams have their media days going, their training camps are getting started, and the 76ers are no exception. They are in Colorado for at least the start of their training camp. Not sure if it's the whole thing or not, but irrelevant. But initially, Harden did not go. Didn't go to the team's media day. I believe he was fined for doing that. The reports afterwards said that he would be going to training camp, and as of the morning of when I'm recording this, the reports are that he did in fact show up at the 76ers training camp, but the reports also state that Harden is going to training camp with the intention of causing trouble, making the team feel, I think the word used was uncomfortable. Basically, he's going to try and stir up enough trouble to convince the 76ers that it's better to trade him than to keep him, that it's going to be a bigger problem for Philly trying to deal with the issues that are ongoing and the chemistry between Harden and his teammates, as opposed to just giving him what he wants and trading him to the Clippers is where Harden wants to go. But at this point, really trading him anywhere might be the play. So, if you were to just sort of look at this situation at a glance, it seems pretty straightforward. This is basically just a classic holdout situation. We've seen something like that before. Obviously in the NBA, maybe not quite as often, but across other sports, players holding out into the start of training camp, preseason, even the regular season is maybe not common. I don't know if that's the right phrase to use, but certainly not unheard of, right? The NFL in particular, we've seen a lot of scenarios like that. So it's a pretty straightforward scenario. The player in question says, hey, I'm not going to play until you give me a new contract or an extension or whatever. And that player is basically willing to eat the fines and the lack of payments until they get what they want. The problem is that the 76ers and Harden aren't really going about this in the usual way. This is not a straightforward holdout situation because Harden hasn't committed to that. He wants to hold out. He's implying that he might, but then the fines start coming in and Harden does show up. It says, I'm going to be there, but I'm going to cause trouble. I'm going to be there, but I'm going to make the team uncomfortable, etc., etc. So yeah, that's the problem here. Harden, it seems like he wants to just go into a classic holdout situation, but it also seems like he's not willing to sacrifice the money that would be required to make that happen. So now we just have a scenario where Harden and Morey are just making disconnected statements to the media, and being kind of, catty towards each other through their Twitter posts. So I don't really know how that develops, because neither side is fully committing to the scenarios that we would expect them to if this were just a normal holdout scenario. So at this point, you have, realistically speaking, two big questions to ask here, one for each side. On the Harden side of things, in his camp, how much money, if any, is Harden actually willing to give up in terms of fines, in terms of maybe loss of game checks, even if this goes on into the regular season? How much money is he willing to sacrifice for not showing up, or not playing, or saying negative, finable things in the media about the team and the front office? How much is he really willing to sacrifice here in terms of his own money? Because that is the crux of this. That's a trade-off that you really can't get around. When players in other sports hold out, they are sacrificing money in order to try and secure, more money, either through a trade or a new contract or whatever their terms are, right? So you can't really do the holdout part, but also not get fined. That doesn't really happen. That's not really allowed. So how much is Harden willing to give up? How long is he willing to wait? And how much money will be taken away from him in that process, before he either gets what he wants or gives in? Question number two, on the other side of the scenario here for the 76ers, for their front office and their management, how much faith do you genuinely have here, if you're the 76ers, that they can wait out Harden's demands, that they can sort of weather this storm of him maybe showing up or maybe not, and making this statement or that to the media, calling your general manager a liar, things like that? How much faith do the 76ers have that they can just sort of wait this out, and that things will go back to some form of normal, and that Harden will agree to show up and stop making complaints and play at 100%, if you even think that scenario is possible at all, which I'm not really sure if it is at this point. But if you're the 76ers, you're playing a dangerous game, because, okay, you don't have to trade Harden, and if he does hold out, he's losing money. But if he holds out, you don't have James Harden in your lineup. So, I mean, realistically speaking, I know there's a lot of sort of smack being talked, a lot of shit being thrown around, sort of trashing James Harden a little bit, but it's hard to argue that the 76ers aren't better on paper without him, right? I mean, I don't know. There's probably some truly diehard haters out there, but I think the majority of people would say the 76ers, as constructed with Harden, are better than without him. But yeah, if you're Harden, how much money are you willing to sacrifice? If you're the 76ers, how much bad press are you willing to endure in the hopes that Harden just drops this for some reason and goes back to playing 100%? And I guess throwing in a bonus third question here, if you're the 76ers, where is your threshold? What is the exit threshold here for the 76ers? Do they have one? Do they know at what point in this process they say, this is no longer worth it, let's just trade him and be done with it, right? Because if it well and truly is clear that Harden is not going to play for you, or is going to, not go 100%, that he's going to give it sort of bare minimum effort, that he's going to, pull the Marshawn Lynch and just say, I'm just here so I won't get fined, although it's too late for that. He's already been fined. But if that's going to be the effort level that you get from Harden here, is it worth trying to wait this out? Just find a trade partner and maybe make this happen. It doesn't have to be the Clippers at this point. Harden says he wants to go to the Clippers, but guess what? Damian Lillard said Damian Lillard implied that he only wanted to go to the Heat, and now he's in Milwaukee. So if someone's willing to put a trade package together for James Harden and you're the 76ers, I genuinely don't think you care in the slightest which team that is. If it's the Clippers or any other team in the league, you might just get rid of Harden to be done with this. But again, there has to be a threshold. The 76ers need to know exactly where the line is drawn here in terms of how much are we willing to take of this situation before we just cut our losses and move on. I have no idea where that threshold should be. I have no idea where the threshold is, if it even exists currently. That is something for the 76ers front office to sort of figure out, but I mean, they need to figure it out soon, right? This trade demand came August, late July, something. I don't actually remember the exact dates now, but this has gone on pretty much the entirety of the off season, and there always seems to be this air of sort of like, it'll get solved by the time the season starts, right? And granted, there is still time, right? You know, opening night is still a couple weeks away, but you're getting into preseason, you're getting into training camp, you're getting into the genuine sort of ramp up to the start of the season, and we are still seemingly no closer to a conclusion than we have been in the past. So if you're the 76ers, you need to figure this out, because I don't think Harden's changing his mind anytime soon. So we shall see what their choice is. But other than that, sort of let me know what you think about this, because I have seen through some places on the internet, right? Twitter, Reddit, discussions like that, that sentiment really did kind of shift a little bit against Harden as this semi-quasi holdout has gone through, right? Initially, there seemed to be a lot of support for him when his side of the story came out, and now people are just kind of souring on the whole thing. So, like I said, what is your opinion in this situation? Is Harden in the right? Should he genuinely hold out for real and just commit to it? Or, you know, do the 76ers trade him? Do you think that there is any scenario in which Harden is not only not traded, but commits to playing fully for the 76ers? Because I'm starting to think that that ship has sailed, and that scenario really just can't play out here, but there seems to be some people who think it's still a possibility. So, like I said, let me know what you think, but really that's all I've got here. No idea how this scenario is going to end, but it's got to end sometime soon, because the 76ers do not want to start the regular season with this still hanging over their heads. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you later.